parents, when did you realize it just wasn't teenage hormones, but your kid is a legitimate a-hole? So I caught my kid lying to me. It was before bedtime and he knew he had to brush his teeth before sleeping. I confronted him and he made some comment along the lines of, "What are you going to do about it?" Or, "You can't stop me." I forget which. I just shrugged and walked away. A little later, I came back and asked him which place he wanted to go for dinner, and he excitedly said something like Chuck E. Cheese, and I said we would go there and to get in the car. Instead of going to Chuck E. Cheese, we stopped at a restaurant that I really liked, but he doesn't enjoy. He looked up at me really confused and said, "This isn't Chuck E. Cheese, I thought we were going there," to which I responded, "I lied, what are you going to do about it?" He just sat there in his seat silently for about 5 minutes, stunned by the idea that someone could lie to him. I have not had problems with him lying ever since. He still won't brush his teeth, but at least he's honest about it. This worked on my brother as well. He had a terrible streak of lying around the age of 6 or 7. At first, it was just white lies, like silly fantasy tales, but it started to get to the point of breaking things and shifting blame, lying about things that happened in his day, and the biggest thing, what one adult figure said to him instead of the other. Well, mom said this, grandma said that, I won't do that because dad said this, etc. My parents realized the potential negative effect this could have within the family after believing a couple of those family-related lies, and that they had had enough of the lying. So they decided to get back at him by saying we were going to Disneyland, to the point of getting all packed and everything before they revealed it was all just a lie. Oh, and me and my siblings knew it was a setup. They told us ahead of time. However, I still think it was pretty cruel as he was my brother, and at the time I didn't really consider the possible consequences of my brother lying about what adults said to him. I realized later though what consequences it could have had, and I didn't feel so bad after. They let him know why they did it, and that hopefully it taught him a lesson. The child me thought it was cruel for a while, and so did he, but it really taught all of me and my siblings a strong lesson. It didn't take too long for me to understand exactly why they did it, and I think we were less of a-holes as kids as a result. Well, actually, somewhat surprisingly, this is a workable tactic and something for myself to remember should I have kids myself one day. Story 2. My stepson has autism, which makes it tricky because sometimes autism can look like a-holism in certain circumstances where social skills are a challenge for them. But the truth is that people with autism have good personalities or bad personalities just like anyone, and my stepson is an a-hole. He's a selfish bully who looks for victims. He takes his anger out only on people who cannot or will not fight back, and he's come after me with butcher knives, on and on. He is a lot like his biological dad who lost custody of his kids because he slugged his little girl and then threatened to end his wife. He's an administrator at a Christian college, by the way. My stepson is out of the house and in a group home now. I really loved him, and I tried so hard to help him. We got him so much professional help, and yet he is just who he is. Good parenting can do a lot, and bad parenting can too, but in the end, you just are who you are. Any changes that can be made need to come from you. Nobody can do it for you. Story 3. My mom's just figured this out with my little brother. He's 18 and just moved to university. Me and him haven't gotten along for a long time. My mom has defended him for years, claiming he's just fiercely independent and enjoys his privacy. But I've considered the behavior a-holy for a long time. If you ask about how he is, he flips out because it's none of your business. If you have a conversation and he disagrees with something, he just won't respond to any evidence that supports you and will even belittle and patronize you. Yeah, sure it is. Oh yeah, right. But that's just how he is, my mom says. He has zero empathy. If something is going wrong in someone's life, he becomes Mr. Hindsight, absolutely emotionless and again condescending and belittling. There is no such thing as opinion or gray areas in his world. If he has seen someone's life go to hell through grass use, all grass use is terrible and the medical idea is BS, he says. If he likes a band, they are good, and if you disagree, not only are you wrong, but you are a little piece of crap he's found on his carpet. But he just can't communicate very well, so he doesn't really mean what he's saying. Try and listen better, my mother says. So he goes off to university and hasn't called my mom except to ask for help moving from one room to another. She's obviously worried, and he's the baby, and now her and dad have an empty nest and she misses him. So she texts and emails at most once a day, just asking, "How are you?" rather than calls. She doesn't want to disturb him. She doesn't get replies usually. But then she got this terrible email back. "Stop trying to invade my life. You're not involved anymore. It's none of your business. Just leave me alone," my brother says. I think now she's realized that it may be just how he is, but how he is an a-hole. She's still trying to defend him a little, but when I talk to her, it's easy to hear the hurt in her voice. She's always been there for this little much to my annoyance, as she always sided with him in arguments. "I know he's yelled at you for the last 30 minutes, but you did ask him how school was." But hearing her this upset is just awful. I think she always hoped that once he got more independence, he would relax down a bit. He always felt trapped in our hometown, etc., whatever excuse she made up for him in her head. But it's gone the other way. I honestly do not think he has any intention of being part of the family again. He's even previously told me that if I or he ever have kids, they're probably not going to meet each other, and that looking after my parents is probably going to be my responsibility. I don't really mind that much, but I know it's going to end my mom. Yikes, if people stop reaching out to him, he won't have any opportunity to push them off. Your parents should just cut him off for a bit and let him see how involved he wants them to be. Story 4. My cousin supposedly locked herself in the bathroom after an argument with my uncle, called the cops, and claimed that he, along with my aunt, were physically cruel. She asked to be removed from the home and she was moved into a foster family. She still came to all family holidays and insisted on sleeping in my room. I have a trundle bed, so a spare bed underneath my bed, and she would wait until I left the room and would steal from me. On 2 separate occasions, my iPod and my Nintendo Switch, along with all the games, were stolen. She lived 4 hours away, so when my aunt eventually found them, I had to wait for them to be mailed back to me. She was a proclaimed animal activist and quote-unquote vegetarian, only when it was convenient for her at least. I've been a vegetarian for 9 years and we always had vegetarian food in our house. She was always just an awful person. I've been planning my wedding for almost a year now. She got engaged and within a month she stole my future wedding date. Story 5. My parents realized, a little too late, that my sister is a supreme witch. I recognized it from the time she was probably around 11. Puberty hit her hard and she had older friends who were a bad influence. She's also very pretty and petite, so that didn't help matters. It was a gradual change, but they were blind to it. I told them countless times she's horribly manipulative and completely disinterested in even the most menial of work. She doesn't do chores, her room is worse than most male dorms I've seen, she smokes grass inside the house, and she failed high school twice now. She's 17 and dating a guy 9 years older than her, an older roofer with 2 kids. Her life is nothing but a downward spiral of open hate and contempt for her entire family, not to mention quote-unquote attempts to end herself, and a complete refusal for professional help. My mom, of course, makes excuses for her like learning disabilities and depression. I know what learning disabilities are because I was one of the few boys in the 90s and early 2000s who was rightfully diagnosed with ADHD, and I struggled, but I overcame it. I've also had friends who were legitimately clinically depressed, and she's definitely not. She's just lazy, ungrateful, and a complete jerk because my parents never disciplined her, let her get away with everything, and were completely blind to her behavior. They gave her everything she wanted because they didn't know how to deal with her behavior, just to shut her up. Unless she does a reality check really freaking quick, she probably won't survive the next few years and will end up dead somewhere. She has no hope for any kind of post-secondary schooling and has no artistic or trade skills whatsoever. All she does is smoke grass and hang out with her rednecks and really bad people all day. Not to mention that while I've been off in another province studying in university, I left my valuable stuff at home for safekeeping until I get my own place. She then stole a prized possession from me and gave it to her then boyfriend about 2 years ago. It's freaking gone forever now, and despite my outrage, my parents think, "Oh, relax, it was only a toy, you're too old for that stuff now." My things aren't even safe in my own house, but I can't do anything because I'm stuck here 1,000 miles away in school. Story 6. My dad makes a good living that allows my mom to be a stay-at-home mom. As a stay-at-home mom, my mom's only real job is to be the maternal figure of the house. Needless to say, she goes all out. Well, in elementary school, my mom would pack me and my brother extravagant bag lunches, amazing sandwiches with all the cookies and chips any middle schooler would love. So one day, my mom started to notice that my little brother was coming home super hungry after school and that he had eaten all his lunch, yet he was still dying of hunger every day at 3 o'clock when he would walk through the door. My mom asked him why he was so hungry, and she suspected that he was getting bullied and his food was getting taken by some of the older kids at school. He's kind of small. Well, since he didn't say anything, my mom called his teacher and had her look out for her. My mom got a startling call not more than a week later after her inquiry. My younger brother was gathering the fat, poor, hungry kids who didn't have money or were still hungry for food and was putting on a hunger talent show. So it turned out he would make the fat kids dance for his food and the poor kids do weird jack-like stunts for it. When my mom heard, she was just completely devastated. She had spawned an a-hole, and years later, he's a successful lawyer with a beautiful family, but still a freaking a-hole. Wow, Hunger Games for food. That's kind of disturbing for a little boy, but I can't deny that I had to laugh a little bit at the pure idea to this. If you laughed at this too, even if it's just a little chuckle, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. It really helps us out. Story 7. When my mom called asking me if I could track down my sister's baby because she had abandoned it. My sister has 5 kids. 2 were with their father, but she had the other 3. My mom got a call from the twins' babysitter saying she hadn't heard from my sister in a few days and was wondering when my sister would be coming to pick her kids up. My mom called around and no one could find my sister or the baby, so she went to pick up the twins and their baby's sister suggested that the baby might be with a woman whose name she could only partially remember, but who she'd heard was babysitting the baby from time to time. So my mom called me, frantically asking if I could use the magic of the internet to track this lady down. I finally got a hold of the right person who said, I was just about to call the cops. I thought I was going to be babysitting for just a few hours and it's been 2 days. So my mom went and picked him up and my sister hadn't even dropped off any clothes with him. My sister basically just said, this is too much pressure for me and arranged for babysitters for the 3 kids and then left town. After that, my mom was convinced that she had raised a sociopath. My mom then forced her to have her tubes tied and my mom won custody of the baby and the babysitter of the twins because they are foster parents and will probably ultimately adopt them. My sister got remarried and joined the army. We're all just waiting for her to either get kicked out, start cheating on the new guy, or, whatever. Story 8. Perfunctory, not my kid. He's my fiance's kid, but he lives with us and I deal with him 80% of the time. I knew shortly after I met him 2 years ago what an a-hole he is. He's constantly lying about stupid crap. He is entirely self-absorbed. He screams and rages over the dumbest crap and threatens to end himself if you try to make him do the dishes. He got expelled from school for threatening to jab some kid with a broken pair of scissors because the kid asked him a question. He then proceeded to tell us that the principal was a lying witch and that she and all the other children at school were trying to frame him. And as far as he's concerned, the entire world is out to get him and everyone else is messed up. And if you call him on his crappy behavior, he threatens to end himself, end you, or call the cops to frame you for child neglect. He is an a-hole to the extreme and no one really wants anything to do with him because of it. We've had therapists that have literally refused to see him again after only 1 or 2 sessions. He's 12. Story 9. I'm a teacher who works with middle schoolers every day. I remind them that the only thing they're entitled to is the air they breathe and maybe some food to keep them alive and clothing to keep their body temperature from lowering below 98 degrees. And if they act like a-holes, take everything away except for the essentials. Kids who think they are owed everything grow up to be adults to think the same way. Not so cute when you're 30 with the maturity of a 7th grader. And if you do this, be very matter-of-fact about it, not angry. They sense anger as weakness and try to push your buttons. Be calm as if you are talking about the weather, and no matter what, follow through. The one time you don't will be your downfall. And from my experiences, as much as kids seem like they hate boundaries and resent it, they actually need it as much as they need love. In fact, boundaries can express deep love and caring because you're looking out for their long-term interests rather than immediate gratification. It's a good lesson to learn early on. No one is going to cater to your needs as a parent would. It will help them later in life. Story 10. My ex called me up one day and, being very upset, said that my daughter had said that she hated her. She knew my daughter didn't mean it, but it still bothered her and she wanted me to talk to her. As soon as my daughter got on the phone when I called her, I told her, I hate you. There was a long pause and then I said, that's what it feels like when someone you love says I hate you. It was the hardest thing in the world for me to say that, but it worked really well. Not only did she apologize almost immediately to my ex, it actually improved their relationship. It reminded her that not only did she not hate her mother, but she actually loved her. She still, almost 10 years later, cites that as one of the points in her life when she knew she had the best dad ever. Not bragging, just quoting. Okay, so this story was sweetly intense. It's surprising how effective those three words are. I love you or I hate you when they're used unexpectedly. Story 11. My friend is one of these legitimate a-holes. His parents are very nice people and I get along great with them. The problem lies in that they were fortunate in life with money and never put their foot down with my friend. He always just got his own way. If he wanted something, he got it. So he refused to go to university, but his parents really wanted him to. He then went to uni on the basis that they would pay for a year's travel expenses for him. A term into uni, he got his parents to buy him a car, otherwise he would have dropped out. I put friend at the top because he was actually a really nice guy up until his teenage years. It was around this time that his dad's business rocketed. My other friends and I are only friends with him because sometimes he can still be nice. We do give him crap about being horrible to his parents though, but he doesn't take it on board. Maybe the combination of his puberty hormones and parents' wealth happening at the same time wasn't a good thing for him. Story 12. My brother just turned 17, and so far he's been a substance dealer, gotten the cops called to our house, gotten the cops called to his friend's house, gotten our house egged by a kid he owed money to, gotten our parents' brand new car vandalized by his enemies, constantly fights with my parents, smokes grass every day, multiple times a day, has run away, has stolen beer and liquor from me, gotten into fights, jabbed a hockey referee in the face even. And the list goes on. It's non-stop BS with him, and we're all sick of it. My parents sent him to therapy to figure out what the hell is wrong with him, and so far it's not helping one bit. So I just got home, and tonight he was at a party that got busted. He gave the cops crap, so now he's being summoned to court for minor in possession of alcohol, and will most likely be on 6 months probation. Freaking kid, I swear to God. Story 13. I now know I was a jerk in my teenage years, and sometime after that, I thought I knew best, that no one can tell me anything, that sort of thing. I used to argue with my mom as kids do, but we get on really well now. So fast forward to now, and my nephew is exactly the same way I was back then, and she didn't like him. She said to me before that I wasn't as bad as him, but I'm pretty sure I was. My mom either just couldn't see it as I am her own son or can't remember it. I just hope the kid grows up and looks back the same way I do, with a mixture of shame and willingness to not be like that again. I want to try to tell him, but I rarely see him, and even if I tried, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't work because it wouldn't have worked on me. Story 14. My cousin is 8 years old, and she's been an a-hole since she was 4. She's probably the meanest little girl on the face of this earth. She calls my family members ugly or other hurtful names. She's incredibly spiteful to be so young, and her parents let her get away with anything. She's in advanced classes at school, so she knows what she's doing too. Here's a prime example of that. A couple of months ago, my parents' cat had a litter of kittens. My cousin was notorious for being mean to animals, well, because she could, according to her. For that reason, my mother didn't want her anywhere near the kittens and would make an exception only if an adult was with her. So one day my mother was forced to babysit her, and the entire day she kept trying to sneak outside to quote-unquote play with the kittens. My mom had to get dinner started, so she told my cousin to watch TV and stay in the house. With her back just turned for 2 minutes, my cousin slipped outside. My sister, who was also at the house, just happened to step outside a few minutes after she did, and when she walked out, she found the mother of the kittens was locked up in the cat carrier on the porch, and she walked out just in time to watch my cousin throw one against the side of the house. My sister ran and grabbed her and asked her why she would do that. She told her, right to her face, because I can. My 8-year-old cousin is the spawn of Satan, I swear. This is really worrying, don't you think? I'm sorry, but that kid needs some counseling. There's a fine line between being a little spoiled princess and being absolutely able to get away with anything, even if it's animal cruelty. And even if her parents aren't drawing that line, someone else should. Story 15. My parents are realizing what I've known about my sister for years now. She's on the hook for $60,000 in student loans and such after failing out of 2 colleges for rampant drinking, and refuses to do so much as her exit counseling for them. Parents have co-signed everything, and mom says that every call she makes there ends in shouting because it's screwing up their credit. Because she lives a couple of states away from them now, she thinks she can get away with it. My mom says they're thinking of taking her to court over it. Alright, I hope you guys enjoy the wild stories in this video, and if you made it this far, I'm sure you're also going to enjoy the next one. Parents of psychopaths, what did your kids do for you to disown them? Story 4 will get you pretty worked up, I promise you. I'll see you in that video, and thank you for watching this one.